Welcome back to the online course design series, your step-by-step guide to building effective and engaging online courses. Hi again, Dr. Beaker here. In our last two videos, we built strong course-level objectives and broke them down into focused lesson-level goals. Now it's time to ask a new question. How will students prove they've met those goals? That's where assessments come in. And we're not just talking about quizzes and tests. Assessments are any activity that asks students to demonstrate their learning, from quick polls to final presentations. Today, we'll talk about two major types: formative assessments, which are smaller checkpoints that guide learning, and summative assessments, final products that demonstrate mastery. The key here is that formative assessments are like practice steps, building toward your summative assessment, which will demonstrate how well you've mastered the content. Both are essential, and both should be designed to match your objectives, not just in content, but in how students show what they've learned. Let's start with the basics. Formative assessments are like practice runs. They help students figure out what they already know, where they're struggling, and what areas they need to improve in. These assessments usually come early in the learning process and give students a chance to practice without too much pressure. Formative assessments are generally low stakes or even no stakes, meaning they don't carry a lot of weight in terms of grades, but they're still really important for guiding learning. For example, things like practice quizzes, discussion posts, draft submissions, peer reviews, and quick reflections all fall under formative assessments. These activities give students an opportunity to test their understanding, get feedback, and make adjustments before moving forward. Summative assessments are the big moments: final speeches, research papers, major projects, or exams at the end of a lesson or unit. These carry more weight, usually offering higher point values, and assess how well students have mastered the material after building skills through formative assessments. For best practice, use multiple formative assessments to scaffold learning and lead up to each summative assignment. Assessments in your course should align properly with the course and lesson objectives. Formative assessments, typically low-stakes practice activities, should align with lesson objectives and measure student achievement of these goals. The summative assessment, typically a midterm or final project, should align with the lesson level and course level objectives. Let's return to one of my course objectives. After completing this course, you will be able to analyze how different communication styles impact conversations. In Lesson 2, we broke this larger goal into smaller, more manageable lesson-level objectives, including, after completing this lesson, you will be able to identify characteristics of passive, assertive, and aggressive communication styles. Compare the outcomes of different communication styles in professional and personal conversations, and evaluate the effectiveness of communication styles in case-based scenarios. Each objective is tied to an action verb. Whether that's identifying, comparing, or evaluating, each assessment should give students the right opportunity to demonstrate what they've learned. To help students reach key milestones, I use a strategy called scaffolding. This involves designing a series of formative assessments that build the skills and content necessary for the summative assessment. These assessments also allow students to tackle parts of the final task in advance, gradually preparing them for the larger project. The image on screen illustrates this concept using a staircase analogy, where each step represents a formative assessment. The lower steps focus on foundational skills, providing practice, feedback, and guidance. As students progress, each formative assessment builds on the previous one, gradually preparing them for the final project at the top. This approach ensures students are not expected to jump straight into the final project, but instead are guided through progressively more complex tasks. By breaking down the learning process, scaffolding helps students master the material step by step, making the final assessment more achievable. Additionally, it allows for ongoing feedback, helping students refine their skills and improve their performance as they move through each stage of the course. Let me explain how this works in practice. In my course, the first summative assessment is called Analyzing Communication Styles in Professional and Personal Conversations. In this activity, they must analyze how different communication styles impact conversations. Summative assessments require multiple skills, and attempting them all at once can be overwhelming. I designed formative assessments to help students build the skills and content needed for the summative task. Each formative task is designed to support specific aspects of the final product, ensuring students are well prepared by the time they reach the final assessment. Similar to the staircase in the previous slide, you can see how 3 formative assessments build up to support the larger summative assessment. For example, the quiz titled Understanding Communication Styles, Passive, Assertive, and Aggressive helps students identify the characteristics of each communication style. This formative assessment supports the summative assessment by reinforcing students' ability to identify communication styles, a skill that will be essential for analyzing their impact in real-world conversations. Next, there's the written reflection titled Comparing Communication Style Outcomes, Professional versus Personal Conversations. In this task, students compare how different communication styles impact the outcomes of both professional and personal conversations. This written reflection prepares students for the summative assessment by practicing how each communication style affects conversation outcomes in different contexts. Finally, I use a discussion-based formative assessment called Evaluating the Effectiveness of Communication Styles in Case-Based Scenarios. In this task, students evaluate the effectiveness of different communication styles in a specific scenario where a communication challenge occurs. This discussion supports the summative assessment by helping students practice how communication styles play out in real-world situations, preparing them to evaluate their effectiveness in the final task. Each of these formative assessments has helped students build the necessary skills to complete their first summative assessment. This approach helps in several ways. Breaking tasks into smaller steps helps students feel more prepared and reduces last-minute stress before the final project. Focusing on one skill at a time helps students manage cognitive load and prevents them from feeling overwhelmed. Repetition and feedback reinforce learning by helping students refine their skills and solidify their understanding. Gradual progress towards the final assessment builds confidence and prevents students from feeling overwhelmed at the finish line. When possible, let students know why each step matters. Students who understand the reasoning behind each task are more likely to take it seriously and see the value in completing each stage. As students move through the activities, they'll get plenty of chances to practice skills they'll need to complete that final project successfully. Now that we've discussed how assessments should be aligned with course objectives and scaffolded over time, let's take a look at how we can practically apply this using the Assessment Planning Worksheet. This worksheet is a useful tool for clearly documenting your assessments for each lesson objective. It helps you stay organized and ensures that your assessments are aligned with the goals you've set for your students. Now let's dive into how to use the Assessment Planning Worksheet. I'm going to walk you through the process of completing the first assessment planning table, and I'll use my own example to show you how to fill it out. This will help you see exactly how each part of the worksheet supports your formative and summative assessments. First, we begin with the title. I've named this assessment Early Semester Assessment, Analyzing Communication Styles in Professional and Personal Conversations. My titles tend to be extremely detailed, so both my students and I know exactly what to expect. Your titles may be more or less detailed than mine, but try to be clear about the focus of the assessment. Next, I look at the measured objectives. Since this is a summative assessment, the measured objective is actually a course objective, stating, analyze how different communication styles impact conversations. Next, I mark the category. This assessment is summative. It's a big one that sums up what students have learned so far. The title itself gives a clue that it's early semester, meaning it's the first major assessment to demonstrate their mastery of communication styles. For the type of assessment, I've chosen a written report and reflection. This will allow students to explore their understanding of the communication styles and apply them to real-world scenarios. They'll have to analyze, compare, and evaluate how different communication styles play out in professional and personal contexts. For the instructions, I keep it clear but detailed. In this case, I've written, for this early semester summative assessment, you will write a 3 to 4 page report that analyzes how different communication styles impact professional and personal conversations. I continued to add detailed instructions on how to complete the assessment. This sets clear expectations about what students will need to do in the assessment and directly ties back to the lesson objectives. Note: this part of the worksheet may seem overwhelming, and you may be tempted to skip it, but I encourage you to add detailed instructions for each of your assessments. You'll be using these instructions later when doing your course build, and listing them out now will save you time later. Next, I estimate time on task. For this written report, I've set aside 4 to 6 hours. This includes 2 to 3 hours for selecting and analyzing the scenarios, as well as 2 to 3 hours for writing the report itself. It's important to set realistic time expectations for students so they can plan their workload accordingly. This helps them manage their work time throughout the course and helps me manage my grading time. Finally, I explain how this assessment connects to the objectives. This might seem unnecessary since you already listed the objectives you're aiming for, but this self-check is a way to ensure that you are measuring all intended outcomes effectively. Now that I have my summative assessment planned out, I can start focusing on the formative assessments that will prepare students for this final task. Formative assessments help build the skills and generate the content necessary for the summative assessment. These smaller, low-stakes tasks allow students to practice the key skills they'll need for the final project without the pressure of a big grade. Use the assessment planning tables beneath your summative to build the formative assessments that support that assessment. Let me show you an example of a formative assessment from the worksheet. One of the tasks I've planned is a quiz titled Understanding Communication Styles: Passive, Assertive, and Aggressive. In this formative quiz, students are given a series of scenarios where they must identify whether the communication style is passive, assertive, or aggressive. After completing the quiz, students will reflect on their choices, explaining why they selected each style. This helps them practice identifying the styles and think critically about how these styles play out in real situations. I continue adding other formative assessments until all skills and products required to complete the summative assessment are attained. I repeat the process by filling out more assessment planning tables for summative assessments, followed by supporting formative assessments until all course and lesson level objectives are measured. Find the right balance when designing assessments. Too many can overwhelm. Too few may leave learning gaps. The goal is to assess only the objectives you've set for your course. Avoid creating assessments just for the sake of busy work. Every assessment should serve a clear purpose, helping students engage with the material and practice the skills they need to succeed. By aligning your assessments with your course objectives, you ensure that each task is purposeful and contributes to students' mastery of the content. You want to give students enough opportunities to practice and demonstrate their learning without overwhelming them. And remember your own workload. Think about how much time it will take to grade each assessment and whether that fits into your schedule. Too many assessments mean more grading, which can quickly become a drain on your time. Instead, focus on assessments that are truly necessary to measure learning. This helps you maintain a manageable workload and ensures that you're grading meaningful work that aligns with the course objectives. You may not have realized, but you've already participated in formative assessments during this workshop. The purpose of the workshop is to help you build your online course step by step. Each lesson contains guided activities that serve as formative assessments, tasks that give you the opportunity to practice essential course-building skills. These formative activities are not just exercises, they help you produce the actual content for your course. For example, you'll create objectives, assessments, and other key elements that will be used in the final course map activity. Now, the course map activity is a big task. It's 24 pages long before you even begin adding content, and it can feel overwhelming. But here's the good news. By completing the guided activities and using your assessment planning worksheet, you'll be able to fill out each part of the course map as you go. These worksheets not only help you practice the skills you need, but also produce high-quality products that directly contribute to your course map. The course map itself is a key step before the final Blackboard course build. It allows you to outline everything needed to fully design your course. So, when it's time to tackle the final map and course build, you won't be starting from scratch. You'll already have all the parts you need, just waiting to be put together. This approach ensures you're well prepared and can build your course confidently, one piece at a time. When you take the time to design well-aligned assessments, everything else becomes smoother. Your assessments will not only help your students meet the course objectives, they'll also guide them toward mastering the material in a manageable, effective way. This approach doesn't just make sense pedagogically, it also helps you meet key standards from the exemplary course program. Standard 3.1 emphasizes the importance of assessments being directly aligned with course objectives. Each assessment is intentionally crafted to evaluate specific aspects of the learning objectives. Formative assessments, such as quizzes and reflections, build toward the final summative assessments, ensuring that students have ample practice and support before their final demonstration of mastery. Standard 6.1 evaluates how well the objectives, materials, activities, and assessments work together. By filling out the assessment planning worksheet, you are ensuring that each piece of the course, whether it's an objective, activity, or assessment, aligns with the overall goals of the course, leading to a well-structured learning experience. Assessments are stepping stones, guiding students through practice and application toward final tasks where they demonstrate mastery. Let's recap. Formative assessments guide learning. Summative assessments prove mastery. Align each with your objectives and scaffold learning by building both skills and content. Use our assessment worksheet to plan, align, and estimate time on task. Reuse your favorite assessment types and keep everything purpose-driven. And once your assessments are in place, the next step is deciding how to evaluate them. In the next video, we'll talk rubrics, checklists, point breakdowns, and more, so you can grade clearly, consistently, and with confidence. You're doing incredible work, thoughtful, intentional, and student-focused. I'll see you in the next step.